Today is May 22nd, 2024. My name is Melissa Ackerman, and I have the privilege of interviewing Chad Albert for the Dallas Jewish Community Israel Mission testimony. Hey, Chad, how are you today?
Great. How about you?
Good, thank you. Was this your first time visiting Israel?
It was not. My first time was in 2010. I went on Birthright with my best friend, and so we were there summer of 2010 for a couple weeks, and but this was my first time since then.
Okay. And what made you want to participate in this particular mission?
Several things. I'd say first and foremost, just to show our support of Israel through these tough times. Ever since October 7th, obviously things there have been very tumultuous, and we want to show our support. I've got a couple friends that still live there that we met on our trip from 2010, and to see them and just more than anything, like I said, show support and see what was going on there. We need to see it for ourselves, with our own eyes. And then also I would say our three daughters, we've got Blakely, Palmer, and Millie. They're 5, 3, and 2 years old. And they go to Levine Academy, and they've been learning about Israel, not necessarily the war that's going on, but learning about Israel. And just to see how proud they were for us to go to Israel was a really neat thing as well.
Were you concerned at all about your safety and going there at that particular time?
We really weren't. We were confident. We had faith in the Federation that they wouldn't put us in a situation where our safety would be compromised. But we felt good about it.
What were some of the most meaningful things you experienced on your trip?
Yeah, so there were several. I'd say we met with Yossi Landau, who was the head of Zaka. We met him at the Nova Festival, and just to see the catastrophe there was, it was gut wrenching, but that was impactful. We went to a hospital where they had a lot of military members who were wounded and or killed, and meeting with the head official there was very interesting. Other things, we had an evening with wives of military members and their children, and just talking to them and hearing their anecdotal stories about just missing their husband, missing their dad. We were able to really relate to that, put ourselves in their shoes, because for Mandy it'd be really tough if I was gone for months at a time, and for our children. And spending time with them was really neat. And then also seeing one of my good buddies who is now back serving in the IDF. He was in the reserves for the last probably 10 years or so, but everyone his age, mid to late 30s, has been called back full time. And hearing his stories, he met us at our hotel in Jerusalem. He came at about 9 p.m. and he said to us, hey, I've got to leave by about 11 p.m. because we just got some intelligence that we know where these 2 Hamas members are situated. He goes, I got to be back at base by midnight because this mission starts at 2 a.m. And that's real life for them. And that's what they're going through right now. And just to see that, it just gives you a whole new perspective on your life. Things that we think are a struggle here in Dallas pale in comparison to what they've got going on in Israel right now.
Puts it in perspective.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else tell me some other things that were meaningful to you while you were there. Did you go to kibbutzes? Did you go to cemeteries? Whatever.
I was going to mention that next. Yes, so we went to Kfar Zah, and to see that devastation was just tragic. There was a lady that toured us around who was there on October 7th. She lives in the kibbutz, and to hear her stories, just her live stories from 6 a.m. on October 7th, and all the lives that were lost at the kibbutz, and that was tragic. But that was very impactful as well. We went to kibbutz Zakim, which unlike Kfar Zah, there were no lives lost at the kibbutz, which was a miracle. Hamas invaded this kibbutz, and there were several heroes that day that really protected everybody there, and that was really neat to hear those stories too.
What would you like people to know about what you experienced?
I think there's in today's media world, there's a couple things I mentioned on that front, but I'd say there's a lean towards Israel being the bad guys, and you hear that and you see that a lot in the media. It's just not the case, And when we came back from our trip, we had reached out to the head of Zaka, Yossi Landa had mentioned previously, and had him actually fly to Dallas to speak to a lot of our friends who are not Jewish, some Jews, some non-Jews, just to inform people about what really goes on. Because if you just watch the news, that's all you know and that's all you hear, and a lot of it's just not the case.
So what did they think of him?
They said, wow, it really happened like that. That's really what happened. Because Yossi's telling us stories from someone who's been on the front lines. You can't make this stuff up, and so, I think us going to Israel and then coming back with the stories that we have, sharing with our friends, both Jews and non-Jews, and then spreading the word that's the mission.
Have you done much speaking? Have you gone in front of any groups to tell the stories?
Yeah, so we had that event with Yossi Landau, and then we actually had an event at Levine Academy. They were contemplating doing their Israel trip or not. This was right before all the stuff with Iran happened. So they ended up not doing their trip. They were going to do it, but then they decided not to. But they asked us to share some of our stories as well, more centered around the safety when we were there.
But you didn't feel unsafe at any point?
No, ma'am, never did.
Were your families concerned about you going?
Yes.
With young kids and everything?
Yes. No, Mandy and I believe we're the only couple on our mission trip that did have young kids. So some people are like, are y'all really doing this? But there was never a situation. We're on the border. We're on the Gaza border. We heard some bombs coming from our side to that side. And that was the only time where you kind of felt a little bit of maybe some instability, but other than that, there was never a time where we were concerned.
Are you eager to go back?
We are. Yeah, we really are. And I was, from 2010 when I went, I wanted to go back. I didn't want there to be 14 years in between the two trips, but life got in the way. But our next trip, we'd really love to take our girls. That we need to let them grow up a little bit more, and then take them. But they want to go too. They keep telling us they want to go.
Yeah, that's great. What would you like to see happen based on your experiences that you had?
As I mentioned previously, I think I want to see people be more informed of what's going on, and that's on us to spread that word, because if people are more informed of what's going on, I think that's going to help the bigger picture, which, it's when you talk to the Israelis there, a lot of them are cynical, as I probably would be too, because they've never seen any real change, and it's I'd love to see peace, I'd love to see things change, but it's going to be a challenge. Yeah.
Did you meet any people before or after or during the trip that you've kept up with? Over there?
Yeah. So we had, we got a couple friends from the mission trip. We really didn't know anybody going into the trip, and it's funny when you're that far away from home, you just become close with people in your group. And the same thing happened on Birthright. I had, my best friend and I, we didn't know anybody on our trip, and we became really close with some of the IDF soldiers, one of which I mentioned previously that we met up with when we were there. But it's funny how, thousands of miles away from home, you just become real close with the group that you're with.
One bus, I assume, and so everybody got to know each other.
Yeah, we had two buses. Just because we had 40 people, but 20 on each bus. So yeah, we got to know the people on our bus very well, and then also the people on the other bus. Yeah,
and you're going through a very moving, emotional. The days, it sounded like, were very full and very long.
Yeah, we were exhausted. At the end of each day, we were exhausted. We were only there for, it was a Monday to a Friday, so we were there 4 or 5 days, but the amount of stuff the Federation fit in those 4 or 5 days was unbelievable. So every day was packed and incredible.
Are there any other experiences you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
I think we really hit on them. I think if there was anything else that I would note, think we really, I think we
It was
touched
one
on it.
thing that I heard about from another person I interviewed, going to the cemeteries, how powerful that was.
Yeah, yeah, and I've been there when we went 2010, and yeah, just even more impactful now, just because there was so many fresh lives lost that were buried from October 7th, and yeah, that was tough.
Okay, let me think if there's anything else. Well, it's been so nice visiting with you, Chad. I really appreciate it, and hope you get to go back and take the rest of your family, and really appreciate you talking to me today.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.